When you're like me, I tend to think about various movies or games that I could fixate on. For the film I'm talking about today, I saw nothing but the climactic moment before watching certain reviews of it, like from the Nostalgia Critic or Siskel and Ebert. That influenced my choice to become an internet reviewer, and it's high time I give my own take on one of the worst family-friendly movies ever. North is a quote-unquote comedy drama by Rob Reiner, based on a 1984 novel called North, the tale of a 9-year-old boy who becomes a free agent and travels the world in search of the perfect parents. God, that sounds so much like an isekai. Reiner directed The Princess Bride, so he's no stranger to good filmmaking. But the same can't be said for Alan Sweebill, an SNL writer who's more at home with television rather than movies. I can very well believe that North was an SNL film, with how overly offensive it is. It's so bad that the late Roger Ebert used a quote he had for this movie as a title of his own book.
I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Unquote, and so on. Altogether, I used the word hated 10 times.
Now, I try to be as fair to a movie, and I don't just devolve into the stereotypical angry reviewer, but oh man, does this film deserve that treatment. So, let's go north and see what crap we can find. We open with an outside view of a house before getting into a child's bedroom. It's supposed to be whimsical, but I can't help but find it a bit messy. With merchandise like a snow globe of the state of Texas? Maybe it's foreshadowing the events of the movie. Anyway, we meet our title character, played by a young Elijah Wood. You may know him from many roles, but I like to think his most famous role was in The Good Son. His parents, played by Jason Alexander and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, are having a not-too-heated argument over stupid things like
pants, that's what I know. I know pants, all kinds of pants.
I had a day, let me tell you something.
So then he says to me, oh yeah, what about Chino?
Yet it makes North anxious to hear them fighting all the time. He tries interjecting but gets ignored, leading to a panic attack, according to Bruce Willis, the narrator.
Yes, North was having a difficult time with his folks, and it was putting a damper on what was, in all other respects, a very successful life.
We'll get back to him in a bit, but yeah, North is apparently a role model kid. He's one of the smartest kids in school. He's great at baseball, and he apparently is pretty good at theater, yet his parents don't notice any of that. And to make matters worse, this is how they respond to their own child having his panic attack.
Saw some blood in my stool this morning. What's the matter, son? Here, loosen his pants.
Jail. I mean, what is there to say? The way they handled what should be a serious or concerning issue is a sign that this movie will try and make a joke out of anything, even when it really shouldn't. So North starts to slip in all the things he was normally great at. Once he flubs even baseball, he retreats to his secret spot, which is a department store area where he sits in a recliner surrounded by a ton of loud people. As he wonders why his parents don't like him, we get Adult Ralphie from A Christmas Story?
You okay, kid?
No, that's our narrator. Yes, that's Bruce Willis of Die Hard fame. And he's playing our omnipotent guardian angel figure to a kid who could be a future Kira. North mopes about how other kids have parents who love them and hopes that he can have anyone else's parents. Bruce Willis tries to explain how he can't just switch parents around as if he's a free agent, but that only leads to North getting ideas. So after a weird transition, he tries bouncing them off his best friend, Winchell.
A kid becoming a free agent, then going around offering his services as a devoted son to the highest bidding set of parents. It's brilliant, North!
There is logic in what he says.
North still wants to give some grace to his parents, and Winchell agrees with this since his friend is no longer a role model kid. North's mom can't answer him, but his dad does get a shot and...
Number 6! Phone call for you.
Oh, prom season. Get a number, would you?
It's your son.
Oh.
Yeah, and he does blow off his son too. This gets Winchell to start sending the paper out for North to get a lawyer, specifically this one named Arthur Belt, played by John Lovitz, who seems to make Lionel Huntz look like the best lawyer in the world.
You say what I tell you to say before you know it. You're gonna have the best parents in the world. What do you say, kid?
Now every kid is reading about North's situation, and they're now thinking about calling Arthur if their parents don't fall in line. Of course, some parents aren't all that worried.
These folks are gonna fight it.
Of course they are. They're not gonna take this lying down.
So the trial comes, headed by Judge Buckle, played by Alan Arkin, and it's literally a shit show.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
Well, what do you know? It's not every day you see the stupidest thing you've ever seen. And because of that, the judge rules in favor of North. Now he has till the end of summer to find a new family to stay with, or else he's turned over to an orphanage. With so many families wanting him and offering major concessions, there's no time to waste. The first stop is Texas, where we meet Ma and Pa Tex.
Look at that boy.
Well, hey, howdy, North.
Whoa, whoa! I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture.
Yeah, let this be a sign of bad things to come with these stereotypes. Also, John Candy was originally going to play Pa Tex, but he wisely dropped out. Pa and Ma give North a tour, ownership of the Houston Astros, and they also explain that they're looking for a replacement for their previous son, Buck. He was supposedly a pretty big kid, so what happened to him?
He died in a stampede.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, needless to say, it was a mighty big loss.
If you couldn't tell, the joke is their son was fat. And now they want to fatten North up too. Then they go into a musical number, because Western musicals, I guess?
You'll grow tall and play football, be famous.
You'll grow more, own a chain of stores, marry Betty Lou.
Child marriage! At least they're about the same age? Yeah, that doesn't make it better. North goes out to ponder what to do next when he runs into Gabby, aka the Bruce Willis stand-in. This actually leads to an interesting conversation about living in someone else's shadow, and Gabby rightly noting that he shouldn't have parents that put him in that sort of position. If only this was in a better movie. So North turns down Pa and Ma Tex, and Gabby ends up shooting a coin that he gives to North as a good luck charm. Meanwhile, Winchell is starting a presidential campaign? Or he's trying to use North to start a child revolution or something. It's stupid. Next up in North's journey is Hawaii, and this is where the cultural stereotyping really starts to get out of hand. Here we meet Governor Ho and Mrs. Ho, played by Keon Young and Lauren Tom. They show him around Hawaii, teach him some odd stuff.
If you settle here, you'll be many years younger because of the difference in time zones.
Which means that you won't die as early as you would if you lived on the mainland.
And then they tell him why they want him. Their reasoning is pretty normal, but the way they say it rubs me the wrong way.
Hawaii is a lush and fertile land. In fact, there's only one barren area on all of our islands. Unfortunately, it's Mrs. Ho.
Look, infertility can be a big deal for people who want to have children but can't. But this guy shouldn't describe his own wife as part of the island, because it sounds like he's treating her as something other than a person. But even if you are fine with that error, it gets worse. That night, the governor unveils a new sign to bring in tourists, which has North getting his shorts tugged by an octopus, like in that one Coppertone ad. North rightly calls them out for it because he didn't consent to it, and they try to explain themselves like this.
People from the mainland just don't care about Hawaii.
If you lived here in Hawaii, people would be more inclined to settle here.
Yeah, that's what you wanted, and not that indigenous Hawaiian culture is getting erased, some of your islands are just places for the American military to practice bombing and shooting, and given how the state's natural resources had to undergo extraction for the purposes of the tourist industry, I don't think the people of the islands want to have people over like that. You two are just plants. So North goes off to think, finds another Bruce Willis cameo, who tells him that parents shouldn't use him for personal gain. Back in the other subplot, Winchell's campaign is picking up steam. Now some kids are trying to take control of their parents and force them to do their bidding. And this is sounding like a bad Kids Next Door plot. North has no idea that this is happening because his next stop is Alaska.
Alaska.
Arriving at gate 7.
Roger 1929, everyone know what you need.
North arrives in Anchorage, which should have a nice mix of wintry snowscapes, mountains, and forests. But here it's all snow, and North is taken to an Inuit village where everything looks modern aside from being made of ice. Even Snow Buddies has a more accurate depiction of Alaska and its people than this movie has, and funny enough, they even used the same town shot in MVP. And I didn't even notice at first. Also, I think that's Kathy Bates playing the mother here and doing brownface just to add insult to injury. There's nothing really sentimental going on, just a silly Andy Griffith Show reference since North and his new father fish from inside the house. Nothing seems out of the ordinary at first, in terms of what this movie does anyway, but there is this grandpa, played by Abe Vigoda, who is to be taken to the flow where he is to be cast off to sea so he can die with dignity? Because he got too old? It's literally genocide, and a form of ageism that favors certain individuals over others that has absolutely no place in this day and age. The last known case of this happening with the Inuit was 1939, according to some sources listed on Wikipedia. Even then, this practice was rare and only received consideration during a famine. Oh, but the way they do it is hilarious. They even get out little chairs and TVs to watch while they wait for the guy to die. This movie is an insult to real-life cultures, which is saying something given how we haven't even gotten to the other ones yet. Another Bruce Willis character tells North that he only has about a week left to find new parents, because apparently time flies in Alaska.
No wonder we stopped for lunch 49 times.
He could go back to his parents, which was an option given to him earlier in the movie, but they haven't even contacted him, so that's a no, because they're still unconscious and their bodies were placed in a museum. Oh, but the reason why they're like this is because their fainting tipped the balance of power between kids and parents. Wait, what? I mean, it's really because of another kid taking advantage of the situation and starting a revolution. Speaking of, Arthur is helping out Winchell since he promised to get him elected as president. I'd comment on how stupid and implausible that is if we weren't living in a time where people vote for stupid people all the time. Arthur is also worried that North might go back to his original parents, especially if they wake up and beg him to come back.
Arthur, don't you know that that's an impossibility? That I would use all my power to prevent a thing like that from happening?
I hate how much this movie made you a threat. We'll get back to that. For now, North has to go to some Amish family, and this is his response.
Floor it!
This was also Alexander Godunov's final film appearance before his death. What a sad way to go. Now we get into offensive stereotyping overdrive. First is China, who wanted to make North an emperor, even though there hasn't been a Chinese dynasty since 1912. Next up is Zaire, which is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where we get more native stereotyping and a Tarzan reference.
You seem like very nice folks. But to be totally honest with you, if I lived here, not sure I'd get much homework done.
And of course, Paris, France, where North meets a stereotypical French family who watch nothing but Jerry Lewis films because that's all they show on TV apparently. Say what you want about Kinnikuman and its stereotypes, at least you can laugh at them for how absurd they were given the absurd premise of the series. This movie just isn't funny, and you can't help but get annoyed by how bad everything is presented. 3 days left to go, and North only has one more family to try. The Nelsons. The little girl is actually played by Scarlett Johansson, the future Black Widow, in her very first film role. And otherwise, this is probably the most normal family he's met yet. They treat him well, make him comfortable. This should be perfect for him. And yet, he's still unsatisfied and isn't sure why. Meanwhile, North's head has been added to Mount Rushmore. How they did it this fast is beyond me. As parents are protesting a bill to lower the age of voting. Yeah, besides the offensive humor, the subplot is the other part that makes this movie putrid. It feels very disconnected from the main plot of North finding a new family. At no point does North seem to notice that kids are following his example and that adults are upset over him. Shouldn't we see the campaign spread to the places where North goes to? How come none of the families he stays with ever bring up this controversial event? What's worse is that Winchell has plans in place for North to ensure that things stay the way they are. So, North's parents finally wake up, and as they are escorted to find their son, they walk past their replacements in case someone finds them. Then they have a video recording of the parents apologizing and asking for their son to come home, only to later edit it to make it sound like they want nothing to do with him. This is meant to convince North to settle down with the Nelsons, but it doesn't stick and he decides to leave them. With only 24 hours remaining, he decides to disappear into New York City. That's when we know of Winchell's ultimate contingency plan, assassination.
Do you realize how many angry parents there are out there who would like nothing better than to do away with our little friend?
For North to be a martyr, doesn't he have to be killed by one of those angry parents?
Well, maybe we'll get lucky.
Just why? Nothing changes if he fails to find a family or goes back to his original ones. You already won! The kids of today now have control over their parents. It's their choice, just as it's his choice to decide what he wants to do. But no, we immediately jump to North running away from an assassin's gun. The stupid movie about a kid going around the world to find a new family just took a 180 into Gotham City as he has to run and hide the only way he knows how. North runs into a kid he knows, who just so happens to be the one who doctored the video that had his parents. He's kind enough to give him the uncut version, because even he thinks that Winchell is going too far. North keeps running away from the assassin, which leads to another Bruce Willis character who...
Which reminds me of this man that walked into a bar. He sits down next to a very beautiful young lady. Before you know it, the conversation turns to sex.
Is trying to do stand-up comedy? Okay, that's funny. He lets North use a tape player that plays the uncut video, which gets North to realize that his parents really do love him. This feels a bit disingenuous since the main message is about sticking with the parents you're born with, even if said parents were negligent. Let's not forget how they played a decisive role in their son abandoning them and trying to find someone who will treat him right. After all, family is more than just blood. It can be found with close friends and acquaintances who know how to treat you as a person. Unlike Turning Red or even Encanto, where certain family members had a toxic side to them, but otherwise we can understand why they were like that, North's parents have shown no growth or shown any reason why we should care for them to give them another chance. They just woke up and suddenly they seem to really care that their son went missing. Willis helps get North to the airport since time is running out, but he can't get on a plane because he's supposedly dead after the botched assassination attempt.
It's North. He's alive. What's he doing here? This plane's headed to his hometown. He's trying to get back to his old parent. It'll ruin everything.
Again, what does it matter? Nothing changes because he decided to go back to his birth parents as a free agent. And the rules have already been rewritten to let the kids have what they want. And what, no security to stop this assault on a person? Then comes another Willis character, and we can confirm that he's a guardian angel. He stuffs North in a Federal Express box to ship him home. Winchell finds out about the botched killing, so now he has to adjust. He confronts North personally while his goons kidnap the parents.
North, did you say the word hell? The summer's really broadened you. Winchell, I've got exactly 10 minutes to find my parents.
10 minutes? How the hell is he gonna find them in time? And yeah, they're at his secret spot in the mall. As it was mentioned at the time, the ruling is he needs to be in the arms of both parents, so neither of them can leave to find him. The judge is also here because shut up. North finally makes it, and as both sides rush to each other, the assassin once again lines up his shot and...
It was all a dream.
Yeah, I know. What do you mean this was all a dream? At what point did it ever occur to us that these things were part of a dream? You could say it was during the transition, but that could have just been part of the movie's weird effect work. But oh, that might explain all the weird stuff that happened, because only a kid would think of such things. First of all, the tone of this movie has been consistent from start to finish. There was no distinction between reality and dream. Second, even if we were to accept this as a dream, that doesn't justify all those offensive stereotypes that only exist to demean and insult people of various cultures. It also makes me wonder what sort of education North has if this is how he imagines these people. Even if dreams are the products of our experiences with real-life events and such, how would he know of the Hawaiian people and their want for colonialism? Or of the Inuit living in modern igloos? But do you want to know the worst part of this? The idea that this was a dream goes out the window pretty quickly. He gets taken home by Bruce Willis and discovers he still has the silver dollar coin he got from Gabby. So everything that happened did happen, so he must have gone back in time after getting shot. So really, the creative leaves behind this movie just wanted to be racist for real. Freaking wonderful. And so the movie ends with him returning home, with his parents showing how worried they were. Everyone finally talks out like they should have, and North is happy that his parents do in fact love him.
Pants with holes, you put in a box, you send to the Salvation Army. Today's high style, you see a push sticking out.
So, like I said, I try to be fair with what I watch because sometimes people can be a bit too critical and angry in this day and age. Well, I certainly tried here, and my god does this movie deserve its reputation. Holy hell, this movie is bad! The general concept of a kid wanting to find a better family could have worked for a family-friendly comedy, and they could have found some way to acknowledge the complex nature of families and how sometimes they can be dysfunctional. Instead, the movie throws us a ton of bad jokes and offensive stereotypes that it thinks might appeal to kids, while also throwing in a dark subplot for no reason. Gotta have a mobster kid and his Lionel Hutz wannabe lawyer in some crazy assassination scheme. I'll admit that besides Elijah Wood, I kinda liked the performance of Winchell's actor, Matthew McCurley. His character could have been in a different movie, because here he conflicts with what should have been the only plotline of the movie. So, the movie bombed and was critically panned, and even got several bad movie nominations. It's been cited as being one of the worst movies ever made, and understandably so. Even when compared to other comedies in the 90s and after, it has its own level of bad that is often unmatched. With bad humor, bad characters, and a bad plot, its crappiness speaks for itself. I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey, and reviewing them my way.